Can Josh Allen improve to a record 7-0 when playing on Thursday Night Football? Or will the Miami Dolphins play spoiler at their home stadium in South Beach behind a dynamic offense? Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tommy John studio in New York City. I am your host, Charlie DiSturco, ready for TNF. Of course, there's no such thing as a primetime game without Sean Koerner and Nick Giffen hopping on to dish out their best bets. So we'll hear from them in just a sec. Plus, Brian Matthews joins me for a little four-down territory, breaking how you should bet this game despite the lack of Dolphins props. Mostert's out, Achan's questionable, so we'll help you. Please, Miami, tell us if Achan is playing so we can bet some of these props. We'll also chef up a little SGP with Billy Ward before I go toe-to-toe with a wheel once again. That dang wheel is banged up after an early uppercut from your boy, so I must say that. But speaking of going toe-to-toe, let's take a deeper look at the competition, the better competition for tonight. Yeah, that's on the gridiron with Tua Tagovailoa and Josh Allen. Allen has gotten the best of the Bills and Tua with a career record of 11-2. Of course, that is in postseason play. Tua, on the other hand, has immensely struggled with just one win to his name and more interceptions than touchdowns. Of course, he didn't play in that postseason game last year. As we welcome in Sean Koerner and Nick Giffen to talk more about TNF. Guys, it's so hard to, from a prop perspective, break down with the Miami running back news and the lack thereof, I guess, surrounding Devon Achan. But Sean, from a whole, I know you wrote this game up and broke it down over at actionnetwork.com. You like the Bills catching 3 here.
Yeah, so again, check my full preview for my full analysis, but I am on the Bills here. It's 2.5. I'm going to just kind of wait and see if it gets up to 3. If not, I'll buy the half point. But, last week I cashed on the Cardinals plus 6.5 against the Bills because I thought, Buffalo would get off to a bit of a slow start, just given the number of turnover on both sides of the ball heading into the year. And sure enough, that's what happened. They went down 17-3 early. But from that point on, they really turned it on and outscored the Cardinals 31-11 the rest of the way. And then they ended up winning by just 6. So I was able to hang on and win my bet. But I felt lucky. And sure enough, our expected score for the game that helps fuel our luck rankings suggested, the Bills probably should have won by closer to 20 points. And that sounded about right. I feel like they got a bit unlucky in that game. So heading into tonight, I think they're going to keep that momentum going. The Dolphins defense, specifically, I felt that they could get off to a slow start this year just because they're going from, Vic Fangio to a new defensive coordinator and Anthony Weaver. So that could take them a couple games to adjust to the new scheme. Plus they lost Christian Wilkins in free agency, Bradley Chubb's on IR, and Jalen Ramsey's playing through a hamstring injury. He didn't look quite himself in week 1. So I think Josh Allen keeps it rolling tonight. He's thrown for 2 or more touchdowns against the Dolphins in all 13 games in his career against them. So I like the Bills offense tonight. And, the Dolphins offense, they're one of the best in the league, but the Bills have done a good job slowing down Tua and Tyreek Hill specifically since he's been with the Dolphins. They've held them below 70 yards in 4 of 5 games as, a member of the Dolphins. So I think that they have a pretty good scheme when it comes to slowing them down. And like you mentioned, Josh Allen 7-0 on Thursday Night Football. I kind of talked about where having the short week might benefit him because he improvises, runs around, scrambles, does whatever the hell he wants. That might help him specifically on a short week where other teams might need more time to prepare. He doesn't. He'll just go out there and wing it. So I think that's probably partly why he's been so successful with the short week. But again, like I said, I'm waiting to see if this gets up to plus 3 as the default line. If not, I'll probably buy the half point here at like minus 120.
Yeah, right now I saw Bet365 has minus 130. Obviously, you could shop around, probably find a little bit better and stay closer till the game approaches. If Achan also ends up playing for sure, that also might help move the line a little bit in favor of the Dolphins, and then you can, of course, buy on the Bills there. Nick Giffen, how do you feel about this game? Do you share a similar sentiment with Sean?
Absolutely, yeah. I like the 3 if you can buy that half point or just kind of wait it out and see if it gets there. Look, the Buffalo Bills, so a little quirk of our luck rankings, right, is we grade expected win probability from our expected score versus actual winning percentage, right? So the Bills have a 100% winning percentage. So by definition, they're lucky. That means they're the 13th ranked team in our luck rankings. But another way we could look at is looking at expected score versus actual score. And as Sean alluded to, it was a 6-point game for Buffalo versus Arizona, but it should have been an 18, 19, 20-point game by our expected score metric. So in that regards, Buffalo was actually unlucky. And so when we look at it that way, now I do look at it both ways. I have found that using the versus the record does give us a better record when betting versus the spread, but this is also a nice way to do it. And in this case, Buffalo would be the 5th most unlucky team in a matchup this week, besides the 4 luck rankings matchups that we put out. And Buffalo's on the road here, and we found road unlucky teams, especially early in the season, tend to cover even more. So just another different way of looking at our luck rankings. Even though the Bills appear lucky, they actually were unlucky by expected score. So I like that look here.
Yeah, and obviously key to get that 3. And, I feel like if it all comes down to it and you repeat it over so many times, likely the number is going to end on 3 or the Bills possibly winning this outright. But definitely interesting to keep an eye on. Of course, we talking sides, we got to get onto the props because that's what everybody is here for. They want to hear what you guys have to say from a prop perspective. So Sean Koerner, kick us off. Where are you headed?
I got another ugly under for you. It's Curtis Samuel of the Bills to go under 18.5 receiving yards. You can get it at -110. But, I was very interested to see how the Bills wide receiver room would kind of shake out in week 1, and it appeared Curtis Samuel was the odd man out. He only ran a route on just 30% of Josh Allen's dropbacks in week 1. Now, I suspect this is due to his turf toe injury he's been dealing with in camp. He was actually questionable to even play week 1. So I figure that's probably the main reason he was limited. But the fact that they're playing just 4 days later means that limitation might hold true here. I expect his playing time to be down. Plus, an increase in playing time would take away from Khalil Shakir, who's playing very well right now, and he's the most experienced wide receiver in this offense. So I figured they would kind of bump his playing time early on in the season anyway. So I think that trend will hold. If not, if Samuel ends up running around on 50% of Allen's dropbacks, that would not be great. But I still think there's some underlying factors there to kind of keep this down. So, the Bills' offense has been very run-heavy ever since Joe Brady took over as offensive coordinator, and that was true again in week 1. So, that's going to help lower the overall passing volume. Plus, anytime Josh Allen drops back, he's a threat to scramble. So that's going to take away from potential targets. And also, Dalton Kincaid had a very rough week 1. He only had 1 catch on 2 targets. So this week, I expect them to pepper him with targets. So, if he bounces back, those are targets that are going to be taken away from other players. And they might just involve, Samuel in the running game, so he can get a couple design rush attempts in this game, and that would, take away from potential targets if he's on a limited snap count. So I'm projecting this median closer to 14 yards with about a 60% chance he stays under, but I still think there's a lot more underlying factors. He's going to be closer to his floor tonight.
An ugly, ugly under. But listen, Sean, I've been learning over the first couple of weeks how I'm going to cope with betting this. I'm going to root for Dalton Kincaid. I'm going to root for James Cook.
Exactly.
I'm going to root for someone else in the passing game, Keon Coleman, to do some damage. See, that's how I'm processing this so that I can get behind some ugly unders. But Nick Giffen, you on Monday targeted a kicker prop, and that one cleared, within a blink of an eye. And you're doing the same thing here, but you're actually fading a kicker in this one.
Yeah, no clearing this one in the blink of an eye. We got to wait all game for this one because it is a kicker under. But we're going to go Jason Sanders, Miami's kicker, to have under 2.5 extra points made. You can get that at -120. He stayed under this number in 4 of 5 meetings between Miami and Buffalo in the, the Tua, Tyreek, Waddle, and of course, Mike McDaniel era. They did have a playoff meeting in there as well. That's why 5 games. And one of the reasons is Mike McDaniel, he goes for 2-point conversions at a really low rate, just under 4% when he's been head coach of Miami. But against Buffalo, this has bumped up to 21% of the time after they score a touchdown, they go for 2. Part of that is, of course, trailing. And if we like Buffalo +3, that could be something here as well. We also have Miami's banged up offense, as we've talked about. Any little lower efficiency there, and especially as Sean talked about, maybe on 3rd and longs, that could lead to more field goals instead of touchdowns. Also, I think Miami could just settle for more field goals anyway, because they know how good Buffalo's offense is. You don't want to give up, bad field position to Buffalo by going for it on 4th in some of these questionable spots and maybe not getting it and then having a sharp Buffalo offense. So you want to take the points against Buffalo is kind of the theory that I think McDaniels has operated under, because he has gone for a field goal on every single 4th down and field goal range against Buffalo except 3. One of those was a 4th and 1, which makes sense. And then twice, they were down 28 in the 4th quarter, right? So you just got to go for it anyway at that point in time. But in these cases, if you're down 28 in the 4th quarter, you get a touchdown, probably going for 2 anyway, because you got to make up all these points. So that, just supports more reason that Miami might not have extra points here. There's a chance of rain. It doesn't seem like it, but if there is any potential rain, that could lessen the chance of a made extra point as well. So I'm projecting this to stay under 2.5, close to 60% of the time. And if we do get some sprinkles or rain during the game, a little bit over 60% of the time, we'll stay under here.
This is why we bring you guys in, because I would never know that Sanders and McDaniels coaching, that he goes for 2 at an astronomical rate compared to just any other team. It's the Buffalo Bills. Maybe McDaniels sees ghosts, wants to just play it safe. It kind of makes sense not going for, or I guess not taking the 1 and going for 2, trying to get that upper hand. And, McDaniels seems like the type of guy, if they're close late, they tie it up with a touchdown with like a minute left, he's going to go for the outright win and try and take it home. So there you have it. Jason Sanders under, extra point made. Before I let you guys go, I do want to ask, and Sean, me and you, last season in the postseason, I bet James Cook rushing and receiving yards, and you made a joke before the show on how I'm going back to the well here, and yes, you'll hear about me the rest of the show liking James Cook. That's a spoiler. But I want to ask before I let you guys go, because you're the projections guy. I look at the projections, and they like James Cook rushing. They like James Cook receiving, at least project a little bit higher in general. I've seen this number go from 83 to 85, down to 81. I feel like James Cook's going to have a great day. Am I missing something by seeing all this line movement just going absolutely crazy?
No, I think in theory, I like James Cook over as well, because I'm on the Bills here. So I think the Bills will, hopefully have a leading game script, and that's just going to lead to more touches for James Cook. The one thing I would caution is this game is in Miami. It's going to be hot, even though it's at night. It's going to be like in the mid 80s, and Buffalo's a cold weather team. So I tend to downgrade backs in this environment, and I'm kicking myself because I almost faded Travis Etienne last week and took Tank Bigsby's over, and sure enough, both hit. But I think that's the one thing, is you might see more of a rotation with like Davis or Ty Johnson mixing in, or who knows, Curtis Samuel getting some rushing attempts. So that's the only thing I would caution. But I think the game script would be in his favor here.
Okay, yeah, I see this. I see Tank Bigsby going for such a high number. I'm like, oh, James Cook he's a South Florida boy. He's used to this area. He's used to this temperature. I don't know. I guess we'll have to see. And if he goes negative 5 yards and then never touches the ball again, and I lose once again, he might actually have to be banned from Charlie DiSturco's portfolio. But Sean Koerner, Nick Giffen, thank you so much. Appreciate your guys' insight. And we'll be back on Monday for Monday Night Football.
Yeah, and I'll see you on Bet What Happens Live.
If you want access to all of Action Pro projections, make sure to sign up for our annual subscription that is currently on sale. Access includes exclusive player prop picks from Sean Koerner and the other members of the Action Analytics team, and Action Pro just keeps getting better. You'll now get Sean Koerner's anytime touchdown projections, allowing users to quickly see the biggest TD edges for the upcoming NFL slate. To sign up, visit actionnetwork.com/pro today and use code GDD20 at signup. One more time, that's GDD20 at signup for $20 off.
Here are my 2 touchdown scorer picks for Bills Dolphins, brought to you by the Action Network app. And my first pick, I went with Dalton Kincaid. I grabbed his touchdown odds at plus 225. Now, he wasn't really part of the game plan in week 1, but the encouraging news is he did outsnap my guy, tight end Dawson Knox, did see a red zone target. Kincaid ran a route on 25 of 26 passing plays in week 1. I think he'll see more targets now, especially facing this Dolphins defense that ranked 30th in defensive DVOA versus tight ends. They allowed 7 touchdowns to tight ends as well. That was bottom 5 in the NFL. And coming into this season, if you go back, Miami has allowed the second most touchdowns to tight ends over the last 2 years. Now, it might come back to bite me for not betting on Dawson Knox at plus 500, but Kincaid may as well be wide receiver 2 in this offense. And my next pick, hold your nose, it's going to be stinky. We're going to take Braxton Berrios for a touchdown at plus 750. Part of the reason why I took Berrios here is the injuries to the Dolphins. Raheem Mostert is out, Devon Achane missed some practice, Jalen Waddle had to lead the game briefly in week 1. I think Tyreek Hill is likely going to be double covered all game. And at this stage, I'd rather take a swing on Berrios at plus 750, especially with him returning kicks. And for what it's worth, Berrios did have a touchdown for the Dolphins last year versus Buffalo in week 4. He was plus 550 to score. So those are my 2 bets. We're going with Braxton Berrios and Dalton Kincaid, both tracked at the Action Network app. Bon chance.
Thank you, Gilles. And the touchdowns are not going to stop here on Green Dot Daily, as now we welcome in Brian Matthews to the show for a little 4-down territory. B-Matt, how you feeling ahead of Thursday?
Hey, feeling good, man. You left us on the touchdown show, so I'm feeling pretty special here today to get this invite and join you on Green Dot Daily.
Listen, sometimes you got to go for greener pastures. No, I'm just kidding. It's not greener pastures. It's just a little bit of a switch up, but I got to make sure you're still on. We're still chopping it up about football. Obviously, Thursday night in particular, Dolphins-Bills is such an interesting game, mostly because Raheem Mostert's out and Devon Achane is questionable, so the props are not as willingly available. But of course, 4-down territory, we got to make 4 picks every single leg, going longer and longer in the odds board. And just a spoiler alert ahead of time, my last pick, 11-1 on the payout. A very good long shot if you want to have some fun. But B-Matt, I'm going to take us started as the host. I'm going first. I kind of just made that presidential decision. So I'm taking a minus 115 price right now on James Cook over rushing and receiving yards. I just don't see how this number should not be in the high 80s, if not the 90s. He's in line for 20-plus touches as the RB1 of this Bills offense. And if there's one thing we've seen with Brady taking over as the offensive coordinator, it's an emphasis on the run. And James Cook also has that ability to make a difference in the passing game. 3-plus targets in 9 of his last 10 games. I'm just expecting this to be a great James Cook showing. He's from South Florida. They're going to give him the ball. And then you look at the Dolphins last week and how they got absolutely torched by Tank Bigsby. James Cook's another level than Tank Bigsby. So I like him to do some damage here in our first leg. How do you feel about that one, and where are you headed for number 2?
Hey, as I always say, volume is king. And, with Brady in charge, Cook's just been getting fed. So I don't think this is a game where it gets out of hand. So I like the fact that, he should see a good number of rushing attempts, which we've come to see.
Yep.
And conversely, Miami can put points up, and he's involved in the passing game. So I think the receptions will be there too. So I like the first leg that we got.
All right, so the second one in particular doesn't go against James Cook, but it does affect him a little bit, and that's going with a plus money touchdown prop, and none other than a regular on the touchdown show in Josh Allen.
Yeah, I was looking at the names before this, and even when I was talking to you, I thought, all right, maybe Dalton Kincaid. I'm trying to work around, and it comes back to, I don't know how we're getting Josh Allen. Just before we're recording, it was plus 105. For an anytime touchdown. He has scored a rushing touchdown in 8 of his last 9 games. And not just that, of those 8 games, 4 of those were multi-touchdown games. So we're talking about 13 touchdowns in 9 games. And if you're going to give me plus 100 or plus 105 in a game with, a 48-point total, yeah, I'm going to take it. So, yeah, we'll go back to the well. It's a nice plus odds, too, so we'll get at least a little bit of bump in the odds here on our SGP, and I think we can move on.
Yeah, well, we can continue to move on here. You're going to go again in just a sec, but obviously It's so interesting. James Cook is not the vulture or the backup running back. I would say Tyler Johnson or whoever Ray Davis out in Kentucky. They're not the vultures. It's Josh Allen that is the vulture of the Buffalo Bills running back room, which is so funny to think about. But it's crazy that we're getting plus money for him because anytime he's inside the 5-yard line, they're not handing the ball to James Cook. Let's be real here. So like this one here as the second leg. Third leg in particular, we got to go higher than plus 100. Where are you headed, my friend?
All right, look, I'm going to go to the zone killer. I'm going to go Jalen Waddle, and I'm going to go 70-plus receiving yards. I grabbed his line earlier at 62.5. I think it might be up around 64.5. But I'm going to go 70-plus. I really am surprised with the amount of teams that decide to run man coverage against the Miami Dolphins, especially when you have Tyreek Hill. So the Bills are not one of those teams. They are zone heavy. They will make you, beat them down the field. And they're not going to give up big plays. At least that's the MO of their defense. So I think it could be a big Jalen Waddle night. As we said, no Mostert. It looks like Achane is going to play, but I still think that Waddle, like you said, if he stays healthy, I think he's going to have a big night. And if you look at, 2 of his last 4 games against the Bills, he's had at least 100 yards receiving. So, and going back to last week, in week 1, he had 100-plus receiving yards on 5 receptions, and he did that in 3 quarters. He was nearly gone an entire quarter while being evaluated for a concussion. So, I just think this is a game that sets up well for Jalen Waddle.
Totally agree with you. I think all the attention's going to Tyreek, and the only knock to this one is if Jalen Waddle gets hurt, and that feels like you're always wondering and looking like, is he at the injury tent? But if he plays, and he plays, even 3 quarters, you said it last week. If he plays, he's going to get a lot of production. I think it's a great matchup for him as well. All right, B-Matt. So, listen, I left the touchdown show. It wasn't by choice, okay? It wasn't by choice. But I don't get the opportunity of doing the mild, medium, the spices. I don't get the opportunity of taking a long shot stab here. So rather than going to 2-1 or 3-1 here, my 4th down territory, we're going Hail Mary. We're going like Malik Willis coming in for Jordan Love at the end of the Eagles game, Hail Mary. And that's Julian Hill, 11-1 to score an anytime touchdown. Don't go crazy with this one, people at home, because it's a long shot for a reason. But I did it with Juszczyk on Monday against the Jets, and he went down on the 3-yard line. I think it sets up well for Hill to possibly have a chance at scoring an ATD. You look at, and I was mentioning you and Gilles about this before, if you look at the snap count and even the amount of passing snaps that Julian Hill was on the field for, he led all tight ends with 59% of the snaps and actually had the most passing snaps at 21, more than Jonnu Smith, who can't block to save his life, and Durham Smythe, who is horrible in the passing game. So now we got a guy like Hill who's reputable in both, in what should be a lot of red zone packages with 2 tight end sets, where we've seen Miami like to run the ball. Well, Mostert's out. So is Jeff Wilson as effective? I don't think so. I get the offense is predicated around getting Tyreek the ball, Waddle, Achane. But I think if you're inside the 5 and it's a close game, we see a play action, and the best blocker is going to be on the field, so Julian Hill should be in all of the red zone sets. So I'm taking a stab here at 11-1. This could basically, you could SGP the first 3 legs and then just take this one on the side, because this one's probably not it's a long shot for a reason. I don't know what your thoughts are in general with this one, but how crazy am I?
No, I think in the early weeks, there's really an opportunity to look at the snap counts and say, they don't have a read on some guys. You look, and the odds either get corrected after you bet it, they end up getting steamed down. But let's go for the long shots, man. People were calling you crazy last year for Tommy Tremble and whatnot. So let's hit a crazy one here.
Yeah, usually the Debo 2+ touchdown was my go-to, but we've gotten a few long shots on Touchdown Show, and you guys had one last week with Jaden Daniels at 18-1, I believe Gilles had it at. So listen, B-Matt, before I let you go, I gotta say, I need next week we get you in. I know it's week 2. We're getting ready. Yeah. I need a long shot for you over 3 or 4-1 next time.
I got you.
All right, there we go. So the 4 legs, just first down territory. We went with James Cook over rushing and receiving. Second down, Josh Allen anytime touchdown at +100. Jalen Waddle, third down, 70+ alt line, and then taking us home, Julian Hill in the end zone, baby. Ryan Matthews, appreciate you hopping on, and best of luck tonight, my friend.
Appreciate you.
Last season at the Favorites podcast, they ran a free $100,000 NFL Pick'em contest and people went nuts for it. They just announced they're bringing it back. You make 5 NFL picks a week. It's totally free to sign up. There's cash prizes for the top 10 finishers, a $40,000 first place prize, a $100,000 prize pool, and thousands up for grab each week. Go to favorites.actionnetwork.com. Do not miss out. Sticking with the NFL, here are the most bet player props ahead of Thursday Night Football. The most bet prop is none other than Tyreek Hill to score the first touchdown at 6-1. Bettors are also incredibly high on Bills quarterback Josh Allen as his touchdown and passing yards prop come in at 2 and 3 respectively. That is his rushing touchdown, as we welcome in Billy Ward to the show to concoct a same game parlay as we always do on Mondays and Thursdays. Billy, you're going to start us off this time with just one leg. I'll throw in my second and then you'll round us out. Where are you headed for the first leg of Bills Dolphins?
Yeah, first choice I'm going with is the Bills point spread plus 2.5. You know, I'm not a guy who thinks I can reliably beat a point spread. If we could do that, we wouldn't be cooking up same game parlays. But a lot of smart people are on this side of it. You know, Sean Koerner gave this out in his preview. It's also moved a little bit. I think we're getting a better price than we got earlier in the week. More importantly, though, it correlates really nicely with the other pick I'm going to give out on the parlay. We get really good juice on that. It doesn't seem like it correlates, but it's one that I think hits more often than not. So that's really the key here, is how this one interacts with the other Bills prop I'm going to be giving out.
Right. We'll talk about all 3 legs. Obviously, you can even buy up to the 3.5 if you want to, because we are making a same game parlay. It's just a matter of what you want, you know, the payout to be in particular. But of course, Billy, listen, we could still be great at spreads and want to do same game parlays. There's something about swinging for the fences here that I love to do, and that's why I like doing these. So my second leg in particular here, it kind of goes against your Bills prop a little bit, or I guess it kind of goes hand in hand. Jalen Waddle, 70-plus receiving yards. I'm expecting a big day out of the wide receiver 2 in Miami. And if the Bills are up, listen, they're going to be passing some more. But I also think, regardless, the safeties over the top with Buffalo are not great. DeMar Hamlin, Taylor Rapp, I think there's a big play threat that could come out of Waddle. And if they sit 2 safeties deep, Waddle could eat underneath in the middle. That's kind of where he thrives in particular. And I think the Bills are going to try and bracket Tyreek Hill. They're going to show the attention all that way with Mostert out, with Achane banged up. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are the 2 main threats right now, and I expect Tyreek Hill to get all of the attention, maybe a couple bracket work there, allowing for Waddle, so long as he could stay healthy, to go over this number. Based on his actual number at hand, it's like 64, 65 and after the market. If you get 70 plus, it juices up our parlay, over 100 odds in general. And the Bills' pass defense, I don't think is anything special. Week 1, 18th in DVOA, 20th to the wide receiver 2. So plus money to add us with Bills against the spread. Billy, third leg, you mentioned, helps juice us the parlay. Where are you headed there?
Yeah, I'm going with Josh Allen to throw an interception at minus 140. Check out the article I did, which is slightly or mostly similar on this parlay, a little bit different. I noted in there the Bills were 8-6 in regular season games where he threw an interception last year. So, one more than they lost. It's also notable that was just the regular season. So he threw an interception in 14 of 17 regular season games. The real key here, though, is that we get way better odds on Allen to throw an interception parlayed with the Bills spread than we would with the Dolphins spread. Of course, that makes sense, right? Throwing an interception doesn't help your team win. I think just the movement and the odds from the books is way too big. And then especially when we pair that with a pro Dolphins pick, I really like that on your side. When we were talking about this before the show, I said, give me something you like on the Dolphins. That one makes a ton of sense. I expect it to be a high-scoring game. You could even throw the over in there. That's what I did in the article to juice it up even further. But we're in a pretty good spot with these 3 since they're all kind of negatively correlated, at least in terms of the odds.
Yeah, so obviously you mentioned it. You have an article every Monday, Thursday, in addition to hopping on here on Green Dot Daily. And we just we unveil the curtain just a little bit, and you giving out a couple of picks. I get to, throw in my 2 cents, which might not be as good as, you and your analytical mind. But that's the 3-leg parlay. We got Waddle, alt 70 plus, Josh Allen, INT, Bill spread. If you parlay that together right now, 7 plus 750 over at DraftKings. Billy, how are you feeling with this one? I know it's been a little hard trying to handicap with no running back props for Miami, but I think this one's pretty solid.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the running back props. I went with a running back prop in the article. Then now it seems a little bit better, like Achane's going to play. Really like your contribution here. Again, if the running backs are banged up, it totally makes sense that they go to the wide receivers more. And also just for the sake of our sanity, not trying to predict running back health on a Thursday afternoon game with NFL teams not being super forthright with that, at least so far this year.
Yeah, we saw that with McCaffrey. Now we're getting the same thing with Miami. What happens? At least we're not talking about Sunday Night Football on a Friday trying to figure out injury news regarding that. But just a reminder, plus 750 for the three legs of Allen INT, Bills plus 2.5, and Jalen Waddle 70+ yards. You can concoct that however you so please if you want to take some other alt lines. But Billy, before we let you go, you also handicap UFC. You do a weekly video every Friday over at the Action Network YouTube channel. Huge card, UFC 306. And obviously the headliner, Sugar Show Sean O'Malley against Merab the Machine Dvalishvili. I need to know your best bet for this one because I love to watch Sugar Show work. I'm hoping that he can win. I know the money's come in, but you in particular might be like, this line movement's getting a little too far out of hand.
Yeah, I mean, you even saying that kind of sets up my justification, which is a lot of people that don't watch a ton of UFC know Sean O'Malley and are probably betting on Sean O'Malley. Dvalishvili opened up at like minus 150 at books that posted early. Now he's plus 114. We have research that shows the books tend to beat the public in situations like that. The fighter that was originally favored wins more than half the time. The big thing for me, though, is let's wait as close to Saturday to make that bet as possible because there's going to be a ton of Sugar Sean fans coming in Friday night, Saturday afternoon, even as the card starts betting on Sugar. So biggest thing is the line movement. I was also really impressed by Dvalishvili when he couldn't get a takedown against Jose Aldo, kind of winning a fight just by making it dirty, beating him up against the fence. That would be a really good strategy against a tall, long striker like O'Malley. But yeah, we're going to do a much more in-depth breakdown, Sean and I, tomorrow, so check that out on our YouTube page.
Yeah, so obviously a reminder, the UFC 306, every fight, a lot of best bets heading over there between Sean Zerillo and Billy Ward. And Billy, that's such an interesting stat. I want to just re-say it again. Fighters that open as a favorite and then closing as an underdog winning over 50% of the time is something is actually really interesting. And it's going against everything in my bones right now to be like, man, I might be sitting down on Saturday with a Merab Dvalishvili ticket, but that's why I look at you for advice and not just me looking at the cotton candy hair of Sean O'Malley and all his antics. But Billy Ward, appreciate you hopping on. Let's cash this SGP and have a great weekend with the fights, my friend. You know what time it is. It's Thursday Night Football. I can't let you go without me going toe-to-toe with this loser, this wheel. I'm going to give out my best bet. If this is your first time here, the wheel is going to give out its best bet out of random. We put 8 random props here for the wheel to choose from. A reminder, if you missed Monday's show and we want to recap it a little bit, the wheel had a flat tire. It went 0-1 with George Kittle failing to go over. What a dumb wheel. And then me, I'm 1-0. I mean, spectacular performance out of myself and Deebo Samuel in particular. Maybe we had a little help with McCaffrey getting hurt and all that, but Deebo flew over the rushing and receiving yards, so I got a leg up on this stupid little thing over here. My best bet for tonight, Bills, Dolphins. I'm going with James Cook rushing and receiving yards. You heard me when I was talking about it with Brian Matthews. I think volume is king here, and James Cook is going to absolutely chef up a performance in his homecoming opportunity in South Florida. I'm expecting if Tank Bigsby can rush for a lot of yards against the Dolphins defense, that James Cook will have no problem, and he's also dynamite in the passing game as well. Figure 20+ touches, you figure about 4 yards a touch. He's going to go over this number. He should at least have at least 1 or 2 explosive opportunities. So my best bet is James Cook over. The wheels turn to go 0-2. Dalton Kincaid over 43.5 yards is the wheels best bet. It's a buy low spot on Dalton Kincaid, but are teams like the Arizona Cardinals bracketing the tight end because, well, That's the main option in this Buffalo Bills offense. It'll be interesting to see another one. The wheel went tight end with George Kittle in week 1 or in Monday Night Football. Now it's going back to the tight end. Well, I don't know if the wheel's ever going to learn to maybe look somewhere else, but I'm going James Cook rushing and receiving, staying with the combo, while the wheel goes with Dalton Kincaid on receiving yards. We'll see how this one pans out in Thursday Night Football. And just a reminder that any pick we give out here on the show, like James Cook, you'll be able to track that in the Action Network app. All of our picks are there at the handle green.daily. Once again, it's in the award-winning Action Network app at the handle at green.daily. That's going to be all for me on this Thursday. We're back here tomorrow to break down the rest of the Week 2 NFL slate. Maybe a little bit of baseball and college football too. Get some rest, guys. Enjoy the game tonight because 5 days of football starts today. Enjoy, and I'll see you again tomorrow at 3 Eastern.